In today's video, we're going to go over how to make a line journal in Microsoft Word, as well as how to spruce it up a little bit. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Before we get started today, I wanted to touch on a few things. First, I know there are a lot of templates, and you're probably wondering, why learn how to make your own line journal pages? Well, first, my opinion in that context is going to be, the more you know, the more you can decide when and where to do things versus hand it off to someone else. The second is the downside to templates is other people have used them before you. So you might get accused of copying them or having duplicate content, which nobody wants to have happen. Beyond that, we're going to go over how to do a little bit extra. So you'll learn how to do the line pages, but you'll also learn how to add page numbers or pagination, one of those. Second, you'll learn how to add an image, change the color background as well as the transparency so it can fit with your notebook pages. And third, we're going to go over how to add quotes. Fourth, how to duplicate your pages. And there's going to be a couple ways we do that because, well, you're making a notebook, so you have lots of pages. It makes perfect sense. All right, once you've created your new blank document, you're ready to go. Oh, real quick, make sure you save your work. Always important. So let's get started. We are going to end up starting by going into the layout ribbon. And in the layout ribbon, we are going to go to size, which is the page size, and we're going to go to more page sizes. We're going to be making a 6x9 page just for reference to change things up. We're also going to be adding a full bleed, or as Amazon would call it, with bleed. So we're going to do 6.125 by 9.25. Now those numbers I simply got from Amazon's KDP little help section for whatever size you're looking for. Easy to find. Now once we've added the page sizes, we're going to go over to the margins tab, and we're going to get rid of all the margins because again we're going with a full bleed page, or with bleed according to Amazon. And as a good habit, mirror margins is always nice to have, so that way you've got your left and right traditional book setup. Go ahead and click OK, and we're ready to go. I like to look at the full page when I'm doing any editing, so we're going to go to View, click one page. If you don't like that, that's all right. It's not important to the rest of this. Okay, so to make the lines, what I've found the easiest way to do this, or rather the quickest, as you'll see, is simply go into the Insert ribbon, and we're going to go to Table, but we're going to go to Insert Table because we're just doing lines. We don't need any of the columns. And of course I cheated a little bit because I've done this a few times, so I know 29 is a good number for the 6x9 with bleed. Simply click OK, and we're set. Now, we're going to want to go into the table layout. We're going to click on the little plus sign so we get the whole table, and we're simply going to say the height is going to be 0.28. And we're almost done. Now we're going to want to click on the first row and change that height to 1 inch. And now, as you can see, it looks like a page. There's one catch to this. All of these lines that I've just made in the table are black line. That can get really confusing when it comes to writing with a black pen. So we're going to go back to the table design and simply hit the table grid light, which now makes all those lines gray. That's it. That's all we need to make a lined page template. Now let's move on to making duplicates of this. Now this is the part that's a little bit boring. We go back, we click to highlight the whole table, and we're going to hit Control C, or if you prefer, you can go into the Home and click the Copy button, and then you're going to click or press the down key to get to the bottom of the page, or simply click down here so that you're there. You're going to hit Control V, or click on Paste up here, and as you can see, it begins to add the pages. You can click on the page navigation right here, and you can see the pages there as you continue to paste in the images. And so I'm going to finish this up till we get to 110 pages, and then we'll get right back. All right, we're at 110 pages, and we've made sure to save the document. Now, because we're doing with bleed, we are going to need to save it as a PDF. And that's really simple. We're just going to go to File, go into the menu. Now, one thing I have noticed is that with the Save as PDF, for some reason, I have issues on my computer with the PDF Maker. Most of the time it crashes. So a way to get around that I've found is just simply go to the print, and then you're going to, if it isn't already selected, you're going to want Adobe PDF as your printer option. And then before you hit print, we don't need to worry about the copies because we've already made all the pages, so we're good there. We want to go into the printer properties, and we're going to see, now I've done this before, so I have one of these. But to do this, you would simply go Add, and we're just going to say Duplicate, just so I don't make a mistake. And in here, you'll notice that even though it's a 6.125, it rounded to 6.13. Microsoft Word only goes to second decimal, so it will do some of that rounding. I have not found any issues whatsoever with that, so you should be okay. Then just click Add Modify, and then when you go into here, you're going to select it from the drop-down, go find whichever one you're using, and make sure that's selected, click OK, and then click your print. And so what will happen is, it will ask you to save. As you can see, I've got a few options here. We'll simply overwrite this file. We'll click Save, and yep, that's perfectly fine. Now, this message, your margins are pretty small. Again, we're not looking to actually do the printing, so we're okay with this. Go ahead and click Yes, and you'll see at the bottom of the screen here, quickly goes through the pages. And there you are. Now let's zoom out a little bit. Let's go 50%. As you can see, we've got all of our line pages in a PDF file, and that's it. That's all you need to worry about for the very basics. Okay, really quickly before we continue, I wanted to say it's a good idea to create a copy of the file that you just made and remove all of the extra pages. That way you have a nice starting point for the advanced section of tutorials that we're going to be going over in a moment. Okay, so I'm starting with the template that I just mentioned about making because it's a good starting point. First, we want to fix a couple things. You can see that I'm in the table layout section, and you see that this has got the 1 inch. We want to regress that back to the same size as this one here. So as you can see, in case you forgot, 0.28, and that's all we're going to do, is go ahead and hit 0.2. Whoop. Let's not type in there. So we type here, 0.28, and then it'll resize. The other thing we're going to have to do when we're doing pagination with the way that we're going to do it, using the header format, is we're going to need to get rid of one extra row. Depending on the page sizes, you might actually need to delete 1 or 2 more rows. Something you'll have to play around. But I found that one row deletion works pretty well in this instance. So we go over to the instance ribbon, or to the insert ribbon, and we go ahead and go over to the add a header, or we can do the add a page number directly. The reality is that whenever you add a page number, unless you use the current position, these automatically place a header and footer onto the page. And so what you'll see is that we've got a little bit of wrapping going on now because of the header and footer both being applied. We aren't going to be using a footer, so we can just set the footer to 0 height. And now the page reverts back. Now, as you can see, this is pretty good, but we've still got a little bit of wrapping. So let's try 0.4, and you can see the page went away. So 0.4 seems to be the magic number for me. So while you're still in the header and footer section, what you're going to want to do is head over to the layouts ribbon, and we're going to want to add an indent so that we have the correct amount of safe space. And the reason we're doing 0.4 and 0.4 is more so out of habit, because what you'll find is if you decide this being this side, in other words, the page number being on the right side you don't like, you want to move it to the left, then you're perfectly fine. And we're going to make sure we click different odd and even pages. And so as you can see, it now changes it to the odd page header. And what we're going to do is close the header and footer really quickly and click on the little crosshairs and select the whole table. That way we can go to the bottom of the page, hit enter, and that should start you on the next page. And we go ahead and hit paste. And you can see it looks like the first page when we started. Well, because we did odds and evens headers and footers, we're going to have to go back in and add those. Alright, so now that we've got the second page set up, we've headed over to the insert ribbon again, and we're going to go ahead and do a page number top of the page. Now, because we're doing the even pages, which are generally going to be on the left side of the book, we're going to go ahead and do the page number on the left side. Now you'll notice we don't have the indents. That's because it's a different header and footer. So again, we just go ahead and set both of these up. That way, if we decide to change where we're going to position things, we don't have to worry about it later on. And that's it. Okay, so now that we've got those set up, we can go ahead and exit out of the header and footer as we're now ready to go. Highlight the table. Again, simply click on the crosshairs, copy, go to the bottom of the table, outside of it, of course, and hit enter to make a new page, and then hit paste. That's the best way I've found to do this so that it keeps the same size and everything looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll get back to it when there's 110 pages. Alright, we're back to 110 pages. Now, one thing you may have thought of, or at least I did, was the realization that these page numbers are going to be a different color than the lines. So if you ever want to consider doing that, simply just go into here, go into that, or going into the header, and you'll just go to the home page, change the text color however you want, and you'll have to do this for both the even and odd pages. Just pick one, it'll automatically update for the rest of them. But beyond that, it's the same process. We're going to save to PDF just like we did with the previous one. File. I again go towards the print method. Print properties. Always double check. As you can see, it's already messed up. We want to go back up to, not that. We want to click and then go up to this setting. Click OK. And then go ahead and click print. And then we will go 110, but we will change it page numbers and hit save. Yep, that's perfectly fine. And there you go. And so if we zoom out again, we can see got a page number, our lines, and the page numbers alternate just like they would in the pages. It's as simple as that. Okay, so now let's talk about adding an image to the background so that we can kind of, spruce it up that way. As you can see, I've reverted back to my base template page. That's just a single page, because again, if we're going to duplicate it, we might as well start with one page and then worry about things in that sense. Okay, adding an image is simple enough. Go over to the insert ribbon, pictures. We're going to go from this device. Now make sure whatever image you are using, you have whatever copyrights or trademark requirements you need to worry about, or you run the risk of getting in trouble. Go ahead and add your image. Now it defaults to wrap text, if I remember correctly, which, as you can see in the page navigation, has messed things up. Now because this is going to be a background image, it's simple enough. We go to wrap text and we want to go to behind text. And as you can see in the navigations, it's back to one page. It's really that simple. Now, you probably don't want color pictures, and the other factor that you're going to run into is it's really hard to write on that, and without doing any of the work ahead of time, you don't know if that's too dark or what's going to happen when you do your prints. So simple enough. You've got basic color saturations and you've got recolors, and you can play around the different settings. This seems a little bit more apt. As you can see, it's still a little too dark because now the lines are disappearing in the logo. That's when we then go down to the transparency, and we can play around with the different options and see how far back we do or don't want to go. Now I will mention that in this context, as you can see, the circle that comes around from the logo has pretty much disappeared. So let's undo, take a couple steps back. Maybe if we try this version, maybe that'll be a little bit different. Let's try that with the transparencies. And you can see it's a little bit better, but still hard to read with the lines. So something to consider when the images you pick, if there's too light of a color, as you begin to remove the transparency to make them easier to use on your pages, the details might get lost. And once you're done with that, it's the same process all over again. Just go ahead and click, copy. Now this part's going to be a little bit tricky because I do have a big image, so you're going to have to start further up in the lines and just work your way down to the bottom of the page. And then just go ahead and hit Control V to paste. And as you can see, the pages are starting to add up. Now I'm not going to go ahead and do 110 for this version. You get the idea, and it's the same exact process as I've already shown you twice with saving the pictures. So hopefully you find that helpful, and it gives you a few ideas on how to do things in relation to adding more value to your journals and notebooks. Okay, as you can see, I've reverted back to my base line page template. Now when it comes to adding quotes, one of the things that some people will overlook is making sure that there is space for the quote and that it doesn't get in the way of the primary purpose of your pages. In this case, they're lined pages. So my recommendation would be to add a quote in this white space at the top. If you wish to do so in some other fashion, that's perfectly fine. But let's get started. And first I'm just going to write something out. This is a quote that goes on for much longer than I would have expected it to go, just so I can show you wrapping. I'm sorry, I don't type too fast, or type that fast. In any case, you can see there's a few issues right off the bat. It's too close to the top of the page, which means you're not going to be within the safe space for print off the top. On the left and right sides of the margin, more so the left side in this case, you can see that it isn't far enough over. Again, we're not in safe space. So to fix that, we can simply go over to Table Layout, and we are going to go into the cell margins, and we are going to add, or rather we are going to change this to 0.4. If you want to get closer to the edge, you can go onto Amazon's KDP page, and they have the exact numbers. I've found that their reference point sometimes doesn't work for me, and I will get errors, so I tend to err on the side of caution and go a little bit extra. That's why I opt for the 0.4. So we click OK, and as you can see, the text is now away from there, and definitely far enough away on the right side as well. But we still have the top problem. That can just simply be done with a vertical align of center, either to the left, to the right, or just straight to the center. Now, if you have a really big quote, then I would recommend aiming for the align bottom, but what you're going to run into, as you can see, is that it does touch that line right there. So that can be a factor. And I think in that sense, you might want to reconsider the quote you're using, or seeing if there's a way to condense it a little bit more. Alright, that wraps things up. I hope that you found this incredibly helpful and useful. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you want to share more than just a quick little like, go ahead and comment below. I would love to hear about it, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. If you like this kind of content, want to see more of it, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that bell icon so that you know when I make new videos like this. Thank you for spending time with me, and have fun creating your own marvelous things. Today's lesson incredibly useful and gets your brain clack. I think that's the sound it makes. I don't know. Maybe I should get one of those. That way I can keep track of takes and also make the little clacky sound. Hi everyone. In today's video, I wanted to go over how to do something simple and go over a little bit of an advanced. No. Hi everyone. In today's video, I want to go over blah, 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 blah.